So we're back for Tamasaba Part 2. I think these were mentioned on one of our sort of diary videos last time, but yeah, this has just gone to another level since then, to be honest. Caught them all up today because the pond, as with the koi, is getting to a point now where I know that it needs separating out a little bit. The growth on these has been absolutely insane since the last video. Yeah, to the point where some of them now as tosai are catching up with those nisai that we had in the pond that were featured. We will add a link to that video as well so you can check it out, but yeah, it's basically just sorting time. Just a quick recap on the Tamasaba for those who don't know. They're a Japanese strain of goldfish, quite similar to the Thai Ryukin that you can get, but much hardier. These will live in ponds, they will mix with koi, they feed quite aggressively at the surface, there's no issues with that, and they will survive in winter in the cooler temperatures as well. They're very hardy and a great addition to a lot of ponds, to be honest with you. A few guys I know, Crafty Koi being one, he's recently had one off me to stick in his pond, and it's the first thing everybody looks at through the window. That is actually another dimension to these as well. You know, if you have got a window, they can really be enjoyed in that way. Goldfish are often viewed from a shoring perspective as top view and side view, so you get different pattern variations depending on the angle of viewing. There's some in here that work better top view and side view, but a lot that work both really, you know, in both ways. So yeah, loving it. First of all, I'm going to sort out the red and whites from the koi Tamasaba, just to so I can, you know, grade through each. But yeah, it's just going to be a case of over the time I've had these now, I can't really translate it too much into words yet what I'm seeing, but I really have got to grips with kind of assessing the bone structures of the fish. I'll try and get some examples to show you, but it's becoming clear to me which ones are actually going to do the business growth wise as they get older. Although they're quite a round fish underneath, there's some that are becoming quite excessive females that produce a lot of egg where it's become too much. But yeah, that's becoming clear. And some of the similar stuff with koi, you know, really starting at the head more than anything, and even the backbone that runs through. So hopefully there's some clear examples I can demonstrate for you to get an idea of what I'm seeing and where they're heading. There was also some advice given to me by Marushin once about Tamasaba. He's one of the big specialists of the variety, that, you know, when selecting them younger, you shouldn't go for them too high backed, because they're the ones that struggle to grow. And I have seen that in some of these. The selection, I kind of went in the middle. When they become too long and don't have the height, they're more, there's another Japanese goldfish called Sabayo, which actually look quite similar, but they don't have the same body height. So yeah, somewhere in between that seems to be the sweet spot for finding the ones that are going to grow out with the right sort of body. So I'm going to get on sorting now and then hopefully demonstrate some of these bits to you as we go along. So where these are at the minute, these would be classified now, just as with koi, as jumbo tosai. They are absolutely fierce, the size of them. It's crazy. It's pretty much 12 months old now, hitting this kind of size. These are going to make really good size nisai examples. But like you'll see if you do watch the other video, that growth from then to now has just been bonkers. Pigmentation levels looking really good. I'm actually been feeding these all along on sake ikari. Just the normal koi stuff, the floating. They've been on the small size pellet, which has worked for them from the very off, but working wonders. I even feed the colour food the same as I do to the koi. Not forgetting, you know, this pigment's exactly the same as koi, works in the same way, so I want to condition it and develop it in the same way. So we can just see there has been a big size difference. The red and white Tamasaba did come in substantially bigger than these koi or Kawari Tamasaba. And but they are slowly catching up, starting to do the business. I think there always will be a bit of a gap, but these are certainly no slouches. It's just the fact they were substantially smaller. But again, I mean, the growth's probably been even more considerable with these ones than it has the red and whites, to be honest. A lot of people do say they don't get them, and I understand that. Fancy goldfish can be a hard one in general to get your head around. For me, it's the technicality of them. It's understanding what it's taken to produce, not just these, you know, the whole fancy goldfish spectrum, what it's taken to produce something with the traits, you know, the high backs, the round bellies, the bulging eyes. I get that a lot of people are put off by it, but when you understand what it takes to actually produce them, then of consistent quality and size, it's quite remarkable, and all that technicality is probably the part that draws it to me the most. Plus I do understand the beauty of goldfish, to be honest. Let's say they're not for everybody, but you know, when you do get into it, like with these, if you can understand the body and again where they're at, got so many different, you know, the pattern variation. These have the same skin and colour condition as nice kohaku. You know, there's a lot to look at, there's a lot to admire. Top view, side view, we see the luster. Even if it comes through there, we can see there's got this delicate shine on the white skin as well. Quite hard to catch. Just great, we see from above, you've got pattern, side view, different pattern. Then just as you move along, you know, there's variation to all of them. There's also, we get the variation of these with long fin and short fin. Again, that comes down to preference. Both look nice. I'm more of the short fin. I think it's the kind of super deformed style I've got really into, and the short fin does make them look a little bit more that way. But yeah, there is a bit of something for everyone. The long fin sort of example only applies to the tail fin. The pectoral fins stay the same size, but we can see it here. If we just get one of the short fin examples. So there's your short fin, just looking at the tail. You can see that versus the longer fin. Much more extended, but that, let's say that only applies to the tail fin. Pectoral fins all stay exactly as they are. Right, so 4 examples I've got here. One which in my mind, you've got 2 fish that I'm saying looking excessive, and by this I mean in the abdomen region underneath. So if we can look at those 2 first on the left, you can see they're really heavy looking underneath. To my mind and what I'm seeing, it looks really excessive. This one's actually got a body deformity as well, but really excessive looking. And the same with this one, really heavy. If we then bring these 2 in and compare it, to my eyes, the whole body setup looks much stronger. They're broader on the backbone for a start. Starting from behind the head, as with the koi, it's stronger. There's more height. And then it's got a really thick spine running through. And as a side view, we can actually see the tail is running straight with the head. You've got a straight line running. Again, in this example, we've got a straight line running. With these ones, because we can see the spine's not as strong, there's not as much height behind the head, and what's actually happening is the tail fin is actually running slightly upwards. So from the head, we've got more of a little kind of banana bow shape going on here. And the same with this one. You can really see the kind of bow shape running up there, especially with this area, kind of like your peduncle area, running upwards. And that for me is the reason I'm seeing that being a bone structural kind of problem as to why we're getting the different end results and that looking heavier. If that was a koi with that kind of bone structure, so we're talking the 2 bad examples being a smaller structure on a female koi, when that egg is produced, that would create that kind of sagging belly. So although Tamasaba have that rounder belly, this has then got the extra burden of more egg and that sag being on there. The others with the stronger bone structures overall are carrying the weight a lot better. So no difference with the koi there, it's just you're starting with a different base shape. So in this floating basket, we can see what I've got left are the red and whites that I'm going to be pushing on further. There's a mix of males and females in here. Some of the smaller bits are the males, quite prominent ones like these 2 here. You can also see they've got that real extra depth of colour to them, as you get with koi as well. But just in case we want to consider any future breeding projects, which is another really nice thing with Tamasaba, so easy to breed and produce, we're going to keep a few of them back, get a bit more size on, and quite a lot of females in here as well. So yeah, just that overall size look, as you can see, and that skin quality elements really are impressive fish. See a really great longer tail example there, really nice. And yeah, another strong male. But you can generally see that body characteristic amongst them. Although I say you've got the rounded belly, which is a part of them, they generally look very strong and very powerful, which is the important part here, because I am, you know, intensively raising these, wanting to get max size. This part right now is a hobby for me. That's what I enjoy doing, raising them in that way, with the aim of making, in 2 years' time, having a pond full of examples like the beast which featured in the last video. So get these back in now and then have a look at the other examples. One here, which again, so much to be admired about that one. Just look at the pattern, the skin quality of it, and then that pattern. You've got top view, stunning, side view, both sides, absolutely epic piece. Really impressed with that one. I've had my eye on it all along. I think that's going to be stunning. Get some more size. It's not got the most powerful of bodies, but it's good. And with all that combination, you see again just the general shine and intensity of the pigment. Stunning. There's so much detail in these to actually be admired. They're nothing like common goldfish. There's a lot of intricacy going on here, and a lot to consider. And not even forgetting as well that, you know, they have competitions for these in Japan and other Asian countries as well. And then, yeah, just the last thing to consider is, you know, where these are at. 12 months old now, the size that they're at and the size potential. You know, collection of these. I think one of the things that does get people is they're quite strong characters as well, as far as fish go, the way they feed, swim, very different, but very appealing as well. So, well worth considering. But while I'm sort of on the topic, it is worth noting that although they might be new to you and not float your boat that much, as with most Japanese products, Tamasaba and good Tamasaba do come at a price. Top examples these. I mean, the shipping alone is crazy because we're talking we have to use a lot, very deep boxes for the bigger examples, and the individual fish price for a start, when they're small, it's not too bad, but again, they've got different grades and qualities. There are other Asian countries producing Tamasaba now. They're just not the same quality level. I've seen some at a shop recently, and even though they were even a Japanese product, were just a very cheap, low-grade example, and they do nothing for me at all, as with sort of low-end koi or low-grade koi. But yeah, these when they start moving up the sizes, the packing quantities become less, and you have to use a considerable amount of water to make it safe for shipping. That then causes a problem in the shipping costs alone are considerable on these pieces. So yeah, don't expect to see these top kind of examples with the cracking patterns and lovely qualities for a steal. They are pretty prestigious in Japan, and although that might not have translated over into the UK yet, let's say it needs to be understood that that's where they're at in the market where they come from. I kept a lot more of these ones because I was unsure on what was happening. There's another element of seeing what the patterns do and how they develop as well, and loads and loads and loads of different body styles. It makes sense that the growth, I say the growth would be a bit slower, to be honest. In this eye examples that we've kind of got, they haven't struggled at all, but the testing field is a lot bigger here. It would have been interesting to see how they fared had they been the same size when they started. Like you can see from these, loads and loads and loads of different pattern variations, and I'm learning a lot from these, seeing how a lot of them develop different kind of styles, but mainly watching these bodies. That's the big bit that's fascinating me, you know, understanding how that develops. There's a couple in here that I'll show you that I'm kind of on the fence about, and they're being kept for that sole purpose, to actually see what they create in the end. As you'll see here, what I meant about the different body styles earlier. Now, there's a couple treading a bit of a line with the whole length theory, but this one, you just see it's got really a different shapes. Got a good broad head on it, everything else, but it's just not, it really lacks the body height. I can actually get it to behave. It lacks the height, and there's just that extra bit of length to the body, and that's aiming more towards a Sabao type goldfish than the Tamasaba. Lovely piece, but just not the criteria that I'm looking for in this instance. one of the other criteria with these, you get loads of different pattern styles. This kind of style, if I can show you it, these two is much more reminiscent. In fancy goldfish, there's a type called calico, which they fit into. I've got a few of these, but I've primarily been focused on more of the ones that have got a structured kind of koi pattern to them. A little bit more show-alike, like that one, where there's actually some distinct kind of sumi areas to it. And ones like that. I'm not saying either's right or wrong, that's just my taste and kind of preference in this. Until I understand more about what they're trying to produce, yeah, I can't really shed any more light on it, in all fairness, but that's just a preference for me and what I've been looking at. I've kept a few, and there's some really funky variations as well. So here's a few of my, let's call them my curiosity fish, if you like. So on the basis of the explanation I was given, that the ones with slightly longer bodies can be the ones that grow the biggest later in life, these kind of fit that bill at the moment. I mean, they've grown substantially, so there's no arguing that point. Just at the minute, they don't have the same exact height as some of the other fish. They're not as flat as the one I showed you earlier in the video. They've not got that full height, but they've got good height behind the head. So I've kind of mentally got a log of these ones and just tracking that progress through to a larger size Nisai to see where they go. We can see there's a lot of power in that region. It's just seeing how that translates later in life. So there's the final selection of these ones. You can see is a real mixed bag of colour, vibrancy in there. As they come out of the water, you can really see just how good that pigment's starting to look. Like I say, these have been really the most impressive because the level of growth they've had. I mean, they've had to compete with the bigger red and whites, being much smaller in the first place, and already got up to this considerable size already. And yeah, loads of different styles. As we can see, we've got black and white. You've got the kind of show-alike. I mean, that's really got ink-like sumi developing on that one. We've got the traditional kind of goldfish calico in a couple of variations as well. Even that one again, look, with some real sumi on it. Red, black and white, almost like a Kindai show of that. This real kawari type that kind of fall way in between. We might even call that one Kage show just for a laugh. Cracking mixed bag. There really is a lot of variation. We can see variations in body here as well. There's one I'm just going to try and point out that's you can clearly see or hear. Look, you see kind of swimming around, and this absolute tank. You can see the huge head, loads of width, length, big mouth, and this really, really strong, wide spine running through. Clear to see that that one's going to be a big, big example. Another one there that's kind of one of the questionable examples, but as I can see, it has got a lot of height. So it'll be interesting to see if that high back grows out more as it gets older. There we go. I've got 95 fish gone back in, 35 of the red and whites, and then 60 of the other type. That's probably going to be it now. I don't plan on touching them again through until the autumn when they've finally reached Nisai and we see what we've achieved with them. But for now, it took some loading off the pond. So got quite a lot out that can be put up for sale now. In the meantime, they will go to another warm pond I've got in another greenhouse where they'll keep ticking over nicely if they don't sell, because I'm not really fussed either way, to be honest with you. I just love having the things around. And yeah, carry on, see where we get to. But really, you know, pay some attention to these. I think that even in a garden, kind of like a water feature style pond, they're going to be something really great for. And I just think fish keepers in general are going to love what these have to offer, especially with the character of them. But even at the more serious end, you know, this isn't just a pretty little pond filler. You know, goldfish across Asia are serious business, and it'd be nice to see that transpire in the UK. You know, koi keepers might not be aware of the fancy goldfish scene. It is pretty big, but these are a nice one that cross that border. Fancy goldfish don't really live and mix with koi very well and don't stand winters, but these will, so they're a very different proposition. But for now, get back to it, and thanks for tuning in.